Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I post writing related videos every Wednesday, so consider subscribing. Today I'm giving you 8 tips to writing better fight scenes. Since I started this channel, my most frequently asked question or suggestion has been on writing action scenes or fight scenes. It's taken me this long to actually make this video because I knew how important this topic was. I wanted a little more experience in my own writing before I gave advice on this topic. Also, it's not one of my natural writing skills, so I had a lot to learn. After reading countless articles and books and watching tons of movies, and I probably watched too many movies, and dissecting their action scenes, I have a stronger understanding of what actually goes into a good fight scene and what doesn't. So warning, I'm going to use hero, main character, protagonist interchangeably here, and they're all referring to the good guy, so just so y'all know what I mean. Without further ado, let's jump right in. Number 1, get your pacing right. He shifted his weight and lifted his leg in a swift motion, his foot swinging through the air in a giant arc. It connected with the man's side, a gasp escaping as the man was thrown sideways. That is a long explanation and makes it seem like that was a really long kick. With some paring down and better descriptors, this sentence is okay if you have some rapid movements before and after. The main problem with that sentence, don't spell out every action during the fight scene. You should let your reader choreograph the fight scene, meaning give the reader some gaps to fill in on their own. Don't spell it all out. Try to mimic the pacing a real fight happens in. Some parts are fast, other parts happen in slow motion. That was probably really lame. If it takes the reader longer to read the action than for the action to take place, at least how long you imagine it taking place, then your pacing might be too slow. Vary your pacing with some quick action scenes and then slow it down briefly with some inner dialogue or some exposition. Don't overdo the number of fight scenes in your novel. Each fight scene must have an objective, must have stakes, the outcome must affect your plot. If your protagonist and antagonist bump into each other on the street and they just duke it out until one escapes, that's fine. Do it twice and that's not fine. Even if the stakes are the same, there have to be different circumstances that bring them together. Don't have a fight scene just to try to keep the reader interested. Write a fight scene when your story needs a fight scene. You ever watched a movie with too many fight scenes? I've said that word 1,000 times, but I know I have, and everything starts to blend together and you feel like if you look away, you can come back like 5 minutes later and nothing has changed. You haven't really missed much. I know you've watched movies like that. John Wick 2 was like that for me. It's just like fighting. I think I did crafts, like writing or editing. Not editing, what am I talking about? Wedding crafts. I can't even talk right now. Don't make your reader bored with too many fight scenes. Make it believable. Is your character a skilled fighter? Then don't glaze over the fight by saying, in a few quick movements, the men were lying on the ground. Make it clean, maybe a little poetic because they're so good at fighting, and use real fighting terms that your character would have learned while being professionally trained. Is your main character a fledgling magician? Then don't tell me they're about to escape unscathed from a fight with their school bully without a really good explanation. By the way, this explanation is usually done using the principle of Chekhov's gun, where a skill or weapon is planted earlier in the novel to be used during a fight scene, a critical fight scene. Regardless of skill, your characters should get hurt somehow, and they'll be tired immediately after a fight. Unless, of course, they're the Terminator, and even then you can still sustain some electrical damage. Those are such good points. Use the setting. Add something extra to your fight scenes by using a complex fighting arena or setting. The opening scene to Casino Royale is a perfect example of this. Throw the fight into an active environment if you can, and make your characters interact with that setting. Have the fighters get creative with using different weapons like a refrigerator door or a chair. Put the characters on unstable ground, like the ice breaking apart underneath their feet or a building that's about to collapse. While you want the focus to be on the fight, you can add flair to your scene by making use of their surroundings. Raise the stakes. particularly in the final fight scene during the climax of your novel. A ticking time bomb is a great way to raise the stakes, so you give your character, your hero, a deadline to resolve the fight. If your main character is skilled in combat, then he better suffer an injury prior to this fight or be handicapped in some way. In general, great fight scenes keep the reader on the edge of their seat because the hero is at some kind of disadvantage. The main character knows that the villain is stronger, and the reader has to continue reading to see how the hero wins or loses this fight. Have some dialogue before and or after the fight scene. While there's not often dialogue during a fight scene, you should find some kind of dialogue, often lengthy in those TV villain monologues, before or after a fight scene. If there's two good guys, maybe one is trying to save the other in some dramatic save yourself scene before shit goes down. Why should you be interested in the dialogue before or after a fight scene? Emotion. Showing your hero has some kind of emotional investment in this fight makes for a more interesting fight. If the hero doesn't have a reason to care about the fight, then neither will the reader. Alright, how do you write a fight scene? Just like your novel, you start with an outline. Imagine the fight scene before you write it and list out what happens chronologically. Sarah pushes Pam. Pam tries to punch Sarah and misses. Sarah sidesteps Pam and trips her. Robert tries to get hold of Sarah and then gets an elbow to the face. Why should you do this? It's easy to overwrite fight scenes in a way that makes it difficult for the reader to actually see what's happening. Things kind of get a little muddled. Having a framework to follow reminds you to stay on track, and it makes it easier to fill in the gaps between those action items, but still have those action items without, losing them. Next up, don't use repetitive words or phrases like then or and then, or starting each sentence with he or she, like he ran, he did this, he punched him. Those were terrible examples. It's easy for the mechanics of writing to get in the way of an action scene. If your writing starts to sound like writing, then rewrite it. Oh, you can't even see that. I have that in a quote up there, you can't even see it. This is another area where pacing is important. You should vary the pacing in your sentences and vary your sentence structure, so no two similar sentences are right next to each other, or two paragraphs don't start the same one after the other. You don't want your writing to be predictable because the reader will be thinking about your sentence structure instead of your hero getting punched in the throat. You want them to care about your character getting punched in the throat. And then while editing, make sure each sentence is necessary. If there's too many sentences explaining the character's inner thoughts to each painful blow, then you need to pare them down. Try focusing on only the most painful hits or break it up with other sensory descriptions, which is something that some fight scenes tend to miss as well. I should have made that a separate point, but whatever. Use your other senses. Instead of saying the cut on his forehead pulsed with each beat, say he tried to wipe the blood out of his eyes, but he couldn't clear the red from his vision. Use those sentences. Does your character get blood in their mouth or eat a face full of dirt? I don't know why I thought that was funny. Fight scenes are super important to nail. With that pressure though, don't belittle your skills if your fight scene isn't living up to your hopes and dreams. It's easy to get stuck in a black and white kind of mindset with good writing versus bad writing. Your writing is constantly in motion, so you shouldn't let a snapshot of your work get you down. If it's bad, you can fix it. The important thing is to get started so you can finish that novel. That's all I have for you guys today. I hope it was super helpful. Again, I post new writing videos every Wednesday, so be sure to subscribe to my channel, and you can click that little bell to get notifications of new videos as well. And remember, if you ever have any writing questions or suggestions for new videos, just drop a line down below. Bye guys! Oh my gosh, this new tripod is crazy, guys. This seems so unstable. Yes. That light is really hot. I think something's wrong with it.